Welcome back to Old Penny Coins HD, the channel where forgotten coins turn into hidden treasures. What if I told you that a simple $quarter, the same coin you use for parking meters, vending machines, and coffee shops, could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars? Most people spend these coins every single day without ever knowing their true value. But collectors know the truth. Some $quarter coins were minted with rare errors, low mintages, or historic changes that turned them into legendary treasures. From silver quarters hiding in plain sight to rare dates that survived wars, economic crashes, and mint mistakes. 1976 coins are created equal behind the shining surface of these quarters, and dollar coins lies a world of secrets, errors, and forgotten value that only true collectors understand, from special bicentennial designs to rare mint marks from the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints to elusive silver-clad versions. These coins are more than just pocket change. They are hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. Why does one quarter sell for thousands, while another is worth almost nothing? Why do certain Eisenhower dollars from 1976 become the crown jewels of a coin collection? What makes one coin ordinary and another legendary in this video? We uncover every truth from the moment. These coins were first designed to the exact minting process to the market demand and collector trends that have shaped their value today. This is not just history. This is a journey through American pride and numismatic mystery, and when you finish watching, you will never look at a 1976 quarter or dollar the same way again. In the year 1976, the United States of America celebrated its 200th birthday, a milestone in history known as the bicentennial. This celebration was not only marked by fireworks, parades, and national pride, but also by the creation of a unique and iconic set of coins that would forever stand out in the history of American currency. These coins included the 1976 quarter and the 1976 Eisenhower dollar, both of which were specially designed to honor the spirit of the American Revolution and the birth of a free nation. But beyond the celebration and symbolism, these coins carry a history of design, minting errors, production mysteries, collector demand, and increasing value that makes them some of the most interesting and valuable pieces in the world of numismatics today. To understand the significance of the 1976 quarter and dollar, we need to look at the background leading up to their creation. During the early 1970s, the United States Congress and the Treasury Department wanted to find a way to mark the bicentennial anniversary through the coinage system. A competition was announced where artists were invited to submit designs for the reverse sides of the quarter, the half dollar and the dollar coin. The winning designs would replace the usual eagle and liberty images that had been in use, and would reflect the theme of liberty, independence, and patriotism. The 1976 quarter, also called the bicentennial quarter, features a colonial drummer boy on the reverse side, a design by Jack L. Ayer. The image was intended to evoke the patriotic spirit of the Revolutionary War era and remind Americans of the sacrifices made by those who fought for independence. The obverse side of the coin still features George Washington as it had since 1932. But unlike other quarters, this one is dated 1776, 1976, not just 1976. This double date is symbolic of the bicentennial and makes the coin instantly recognizable among collectors and the general public. The Eisenhower dollar coin, minted in 1976, also received a bicentennial design. The reverse side features the Liberty Bell in front of the moon, symbolizing both the struggle for freedom and the achievements of the space age. A powerful image meant to show the progress America made in 2 centuries. This design by Dennis R. Williams was chosen for its simplicity and its strong symbolic message. Again, the obverse side retained the portrait of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, while the date on the coin was shown as 1776-1976 to mark the bicentennial anniversary. Now let us turn to the different types of 1976 quarters and dollar coins that were minted. During this time, the United States Mint produced these coins at 3 main locations: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Each of these mints produced coins in various compositions for both circulation and collector sets. Understanding the mint marks and their significance is essential to identifying rare and valuable variants. Coins minted in Philadelphia in 1976 do not carry a mint mark those struck in. Denver have a small D mark, and those from San Francisco show an S mint mark. The most common 1976 quarters are the copper-nickel-clad versions produced in large quantities for circulation. But there are also special 40% silver-clad versions of both the quarter and the Eisenhower dollar. These were made only for collector sets and not released into general circulation. The silver-clad coins are heavier, have a slightly different luster, and are often more valuable due to their silver content and limited mintage. The 40% silver coins were minted only in San Francisco and only in proof and uncirculated sets. Collectors often seek out these coins because they were not handled by the public and usually remain in pristine condition. Even decades later, a 1976 S-proof silver quarter in perfect condition can fetch significantly higher prices than its copper-nickel counterpart, and the Eisenhower dollar in 40% silver can be even more valuable, especially in its deep cameo-proof version. But it is not just silver content or proof status that makes these coins valuable. Mint errors and varieties also play a huge role in determining which coins are worth a small fortune and which are simply historical mementos. Error coins from 1976 include off-center strikes, double dies, and coins struck on the wrong planchets. Some of these errors are extremely rare and have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. Imagine finding a 1976 quarter that was accidentally struck on a nickel planchet or an Eisenhower dollar with a double die obverse. These mistakes are few and far between, but they exist, and they are some of the most exciting finds for serious collectors. One notable variety is the Type 1 and Type 2 lettering on the Eisenhower dollar. The Type 1 variety features thick, bold lettering, while the Type 2 has thinner, more refined letters. The Type 2 is generally rarer and is considered more desirable, especially in high-grade coins. Knowing the difference between these types can help collectors spot potential high-value coins in their own collections. Grading also plays a crucial role in the value of these coins. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale with MS 70 or mint. State 70 being the highest possible grade. The closer a coin is to mint state, the more valuable it is. A 1976 quarter or dollar that has been certified MS 65 or higher by a professional grading service like PCGs or NGC will sell for significantly more than a circulated version, even if it is the same type or variety. Proof coins are also graded with a focus on the contrast between the mirrored background and the frosted design elements, with deep cameo designations fetching premium prices. Over time, the popularity of bicentennial coins has only grown as more collectors enter the market, and as silver values fluctuate, many people are revisiting their old coin sets and discovering that their 1976 coins may be worth more than they realized. For example, a regular 1976 quarter in circulated condition might only be worth face value, but a silver-proof version in pristine condition could be worth $10, $20 or more depending on market conditions. And demand similarly, a high-grade 1976 Eisenhower dollar with a rare variety or error could fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars in the right auction setting. Beyond monetary value, these coins have historical and patriotic significance that adds to their desirability. They mark a moment in American history when the nation reflected on its roots, celebrated its progress, and looked forward to the future. The bicentennial coins are a tangible reminder of that spirit, and owning them connects collectors to a story that is far bigger than metal or money. It is the story of America itself. In conclusion, the 1976 quarters and Eisenhower dollar coins are far more than just coins. They are history, they are art, they are investments, and they are symbols of national pride. Whether you are a new collector or a seasoned expert, these coins offer something for everyone, from beautiful designs and valuable silver content to rare varieties and mysterious mint errors, the bicentennial coins remain a fascinating chapter in the story of American numismatics. And if you have one in your collection or find one in your change, you might just be holding a piece of that story in your hand. If you enjoyed this detailed deep dive into the world of 1976 quarters and dollars, stay tuned as we continue to explore the hidden history, rare values, and powerful stories behind America's most iconic coins. Have you ever wondered how a small piece of metal in your pocket can hold within it an entire story of American history? Artistry, economics, and heritage. The 1993 Washington quarter is one such coin, a coin that at first glance might look like any other quarter. But once you begin to peel back its layers, you realize it is much more than just currency. It is a continuation of a tradition that began in 1932, when the United States Mint first introduced the Washington quarter to commemorate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. The portrait that graces the obverse of the coin was created by John Flanagan, based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's famous 1785 bust of Washington, and from its debut, this coin carried with it the essence of the nation's first president, symbolizing leadership, resilience, and the foundation of a republic that would grow into a global power. By 1993, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for over 6 decades, and during that time it had undergone subtle yet important changes. The 1965 switch from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition forever altered the intrinsic value of the coin, moving it away from precious metal content and into the modern era of cost efficiency. And mass production, the 1993 quarter, represents a part of that copper-nickel era struck in immense numbers at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints with the familiar P and D mint marks, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors, featuring sharper strikes and mirror-like fields. To understand the 1993 Washington quarter fully, you must consider the broader economic and cultural context of the early 1990s. America was experiencing the aftermath of the Cold War, a period of technological growth and economic shifts, and the coins of the era served not only as instruments of commerce, but also as quiet witnesses to the daily life of millions of Americans. Vending machines, parking meters, toll booths, supermarkets, all of these everyday places saw the circulation of the 1993 quarter, and yet while countless examples were spent and forgotten, others were carefully saved by collectors who recognized the value in pristine, uncirculated or proof strikes. The design of the coin itself continued the tradition, with the obverse still displaying the left-facing bust of George Washington with the word Liberty. Above the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left, and the date 1993. At the bottom, the reverse remained unchanged. Since the eagle design, introduced in 1932, with a bold heraldic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches, a timeless symbol of strength and peace that resonated with generations. The artistry may have seemed simple by modern standards, but it reflected the neoclassical influence that dominated American coinage for much of the 20th century. Mintage figures also tell us much about the 1993 quarter. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 639 million examples, while the Denver Mint struck more than 662 million, and the San Francisco Mint created nearly 3 million clad proofs, along with a smaller number of silver proof sets for collectors. Though these silver proofs were not intended for circulation, they carried the spirit of the older, pre-1965 quarters, connecting modern collectors with the rich silver heritage of the series. This vast production ensured that the 1993 quarter was available everywhere across the country. Yet condition rarity became the defining factor for collectors, with high-grade mint state coins, particularly those graded MS-67 or MS-68 by professional services, commanding significant premiums in the numismatic market. The history of the Washington quarter in 1993 also intersects with the larger narrative of American coinage reform. Within just a few years, The United States Mint would embark on the monumental state quarter program launched in 1999, which would forever change the way Americans looked at their pocket change. The 1993 quarter thus sits at an important transitional moment. It was one of the last issues before the dramatic redesign that would capture national attention and inspire a new wave of collecting. The simplicity of the 1993 design makes it a fascinating study when contrasted with the state quarters that followed, because it embodies the final chapter of a long era of uniformity before creativity and regional representation took center stage. Collectors often study varieties and errors when examining coins from this period, and the 1993 Washington quarter is no exception. Die cracks off center strikes and doubled dies, though relatively scarce, do exist and provide intriguing case studies for specialists. Such minting anomalies turn ordinary circulation strikes into prized numismatic treasures, and they remind us that coin production, though mechanized on a massive scale, is still subject to human oversight and technical imperfection. To expand on the context, one must also recognize the role of the U.S. Mint itself in 1993, operating multiple facilities with increasingly advanced technology. The Mint was responsible for producing billions of coins annually, not just quarters, but pennies, nickels, dimes, half dollars, and dollars. The consistency and efficiency of production in this era highlight the federal government's ability to meet the demands of commerce while also serving the collecting community through proof and mint sets for hobbyists. In fact, the 1993 proof set became a popular acquisition among collectors, as it offered not just the quarter, but the entire range of denominations in a pristine presentation. When you hold a 1993 Washington quarter, you are holding a piece of circulating history that speaks to more than just its 25-cent face value. It speaks to the artistry of Flanagan, the heritage of Washington, the economic realities of a post-silver coinage system, and the continuity of a design that had endured for over 60 years. It reminds us of a moment before the revolutionary state quarters program, and it remains a symbol of stability during a decade of transition. If you trace the lifespan of these coins from minting to circulation to eventual collecting, you uncover countless stories: the pocket of a child buying candy, the toll booth of a commuter crossing a bridge, the change given to a customer at a diner. Each of these everyday moments is tied together by the humble 1993 quarter, which moved silently through American life and yet found itself enshrined in albums and holders by those who understood its place in the numismatic timeline. In summary, the 1993 Washington quarter is a study in continuity and change continuity, because it carried forward the same proud imagery of Washington and the eagle that had become familiar to generations, and change, because it foreshadowed the coming transformation of U.S. coinage into a new era of diversity and design innovation. It may not be rare in the sense of limited mintage, but its story is invaluable for anyone seeking to understand the evolution of American coinage and the enduring legacy of the Washington Quarter series. Imagine holding in your hand a simple piece of American change, something you may pass along in a store without a second thought. Yet within that coin lies a story of artistry, history, economics, and national pride. The Washington Quarter of 1987 is one such coin. And today we unravel its complete history in detail, a history so rich that by the end of this journey, you will never look at a quarter the same way again. The Washington Quarter series itself began in 1932 as a tribute to George Washington, the first president of the United States, marking the bicentennial of his birth. John Flanagan's design, featuring Washington's left-facing portrait, was selected and would become one of the most enduring designs in American coinage. The 1987 quarter belongs to that historic lineage, continuing the design that had by then become a fixture in pockets, purses, and cash registers across America. The obverse of the 1987 quarter bears the iconic image of Washington modeled after the bust created in 1785 by French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon. a design choice that was intended to capture the authentic likeness of the man who shaped the foundation of the nation. Above his portrait, the word liberty is engraved, reminding Americans of the ideals upon which the country was built. To the left, the national motto, "In God We Trust," is etched firmly, standing as a declaration of faith and tradition, while beneath the portrait, the year 1987 is placed, a marker of time that roots the coin in its specific historical context. Turning to the reverse, the 1987 quarter features the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows, and an olive branch, a classic symbol of American power and peace designed to represent the nation's balance between military readiness and its dedication to diplomacy. The inscriptions "United States of America" and "E Pluribus Unum," together with the denomination quarter dollar, create a message of national identity, unity, and value. This design had been in place since the coin's first release, and in 1987, it continued to project the values of a nation that was experiencing significant economic, political, and cultural transformations. The year 1987 was notable in the history of the United States. The country was in the later years of the Reagan presidency, and the economy was marked by both booming growth and looming challenges, with events such as the stock market crash in October that year, reminding Americans of financial uncertainty. The Washington quarter of 1987 circulated in this climate, moving from hand to hand as people bought goods, paid for services, and saved change. It became part of everyday life, a silent witness to the realities of the American people. From a numismatic perspective, the 1987 Washington quarter was produced at multiple mints, primarily the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the absence of a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, identified by the D mark placed to the right of Washington's ponytail. The San Francisco Mint also struck proof coins for collectors carrying the S mint mark. These proof issues were of higher quality, struck on specially prepared planchets with polished dies, producing sharp details and mirrored finishes appealing to coin collectors who valued them both for their beauty and their role in completing proof sets. The composition of the 1987 quarter continued the clad standard that had been adopted in 1965 following the Coinage Act, which removed silver from circulating quarters due to rising silver prices. Instead, the coins were made of a copper-nickel-clad sandwich structure with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change, which had been controversial in the mid-1960s, was by 1987 fully accepted by the public, though collectors always remembered the beauty and intrinsic value of the pre-1965 silver quarters. The 1987 issue represented the modern practical reality of United States coinage, a balance between affordability, durability, and circulation needs. In terms of mintage numbers, the Philadelphia and Denver mints each produced hundreds of millions of quarters in 1987, ensuring widespread circulation across the nation. The San Francisco Mint struck smaller numbers of proof coins, specifically intended for inclusion in collector sets as such, while the vast majority of 1987 quarters hold only face value today in circulated condition. Higher-grade uncirculated examples or pristine proof coins can command premiums in the numismatic marketplace. The true value for collectors often lies not only in the monetary worth, but in the condition, rarity, and historical narrative tied to each coin. The design of the Washington quarter in 1987 remained unchanged, but its longevity was a subject of debate within the numismatic community. Some believed it was time to update the design, as the coin had been circulating for over 5 decades. Others argued that the Washington portrait and eagle reverse had become iconic symbols too deeply rooted in American culture to be replaced. Indeed, the Washington quarter design would persist for another decade before the 50-state quarters program launched in 1999, bringing dramatic changes to the reverse designs and capturing the imagination of millions of Americans. The 1987 quarter therefore represents a late chapter in the long-running original Washington quarter series that stretched from 1932 to 1998, examining the cultural role of the quarter in 1987 also reveals fascinating insights. By that time, vending machines, arcade games, and payphones all relied heavily on quarters as the standard unit of operation. This gave the coin an outsized importance in daily life beyond its face value. A single quarter could grant you a phone call, a video game, a snack from a machine, or even serve as the deciding coin flip in moments of chance and decision-making. The 1987 Washington quarter, therefore, was not only a piece of money, but also an essential token of American culture woven into the fabric of social and economic interactions. Collectors today often seek the 1987 quarter in high mint state grades, where luster, sharp strike, and absence of wear elevate the coin's beauty. Such coins may come from original bankrolls, mint sets, or proof sets, and finding pristine examples can be a rewarding pursuit for numismatists who value condition rarity and the connection to American history. Some error coins from the year, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or clipped planchets, add an extra layer of intrigue and can be far more valuable than regular issues, providing collectors with exciting challenges in their search to truly appreciate the 1987 Washington. Quarter one must see it as more than a small piece of metal. It is a reflection of American heritage, the continuation of a design that honored the founding father George Washington, the embodiment of national symbols like the eagle and the mottos, of unity and faith, and a participant in the everyday lives of millions of Americans during a year of economic turbulence and cultural change. It is a bridge between the silver era of the past and the modern-clad coinage era that still defines U.S. quarters today. When you hold a 1987 Washington quarter, you are not just holding change, you are holding a piece of living history, one that connects to the artistry of John Flanagan, the legacy of George Washington, the strength of the American economy, and the culture of a nation that values both tradition and progress. This coin's story is not just about numismatics, but about America itself, and that is what makes it so captivating. Imagine holding a piece of American history right in the palm of your hand, a small silver-colored coin that represents more than just 25 cents. It is a symbol of a nation, its traditions, its artistry, and its enduring legacy. The Washington quarter of 1996 is not merely a circulating coin, it is a chapter in the long story of American numismatics. A story that begins in the 1930s when the United States Mint was preparing to honor the bicentennial of the birth of George Washington back. In 1932, the country was searching for a way to pay tribute to the first president of the United States, George Washington, the man who led the Revolutionary Army to victory and who became the face of American leadership and democracy. The Treasury Department and the Commission of Fine Arts began the process of selecting a design that would represent Washington on the coinage that everyday citizens would use for generations. The quarter denomination was chosen since it was one of the most heavily used coins in circulation. The final design selected was that of sculptor John Flanagan, who created a portrait of Washington that conveyed strength, dignity, and timeless leadership. The Washington quarter was introduced into circulation in 1932, and it quickly became a cornerstone of American coinage. Over the decades, it underwent slight modifications, but the portrait of Washington by Flanagan remained dominant. Its production carried through the decades of the Great Depression world. War II, the economic boom of the 1950s, and the turbulent times of the 1960s and 70s. Each quarter carried the story of its own year of minting, reflecting the social, political, and economic landscape of the United States. By the time 1996 arrived, the Washington quarter had been in circulation for 64 years. The year 1996 marked a transitional period for the United States Mint and for the Washington quarter itself. It was the final stretch before the launch of the monumental 50-state quarters program, which would begin in 1999 and completely revolutionize the way Americans viewed their coinage. The 1996 Washington quarter, therefore, stands as one of the last standard issues of the traditional Flanagan design before the new era of state-specific designs captured the imagination of millions. The 1996 Washington quarter was struck at three primary locations: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. The Philadelphia Mint coins bore no mint mark, while the Denver coins carried the familiar D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof issues with the S mint mark. Collectors often seek out examples from each mint because they represent the full range of 1996 issues. The proof versions in particular, struck with a mirror-like finish on highly polished planchets, showcase the artistry of the design in a way circulation strikes simply cannot. Looking closer at the coin itself, we see the obverse bearing the left-facing bust of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan. The word liberty arches across the top. The phrase, "In God we trust," rests to the left, and the date, 1996, sits just beneath Washington's portrait. On the reverse side, the majestic bald eagle spreads its wings, clutching arrows of strength and surrounded by olive branches of peace. Above the eagle, the words "United States of America" and "E pluribus unum" declare the national identity, while quarter dollar is inscribed below. This design had remained relatively unchanged since its introduction, offering Americans a sense of continuity and familiarity for more than half a century. The mintage of the 1996 Washington quarter was substantial, with hundreds of millions of coins struck between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, making it a common issue in circulation. However, the true value of the 1996 quarter, in numismatic terms, lies in its condition, high-grade mint state examples. Particularly those graded MS-67 or higher are considerably scarce and highly sought after by collectors. While an ordinary circulated 1996 quarter might only be worth its face value or slightly above pristine uncirculated specimens with sharp details and no wear, can command significant premiums at auction. The San Francisco proof issues also hold a special place in the story of the 1996 quarter. These proofs were struck with extraordinary care using polished dies and specially prepared planchets, resulting in coins with sharp frosted devices and mirror-like. Fields collectors who pursue proof sets from 1996 treasure these coins as part of the larger annual sets produced by the Mint. These proof quarters are not typically found in circulation, but rather sold directly to collectors, making them a more refined part of the numismatic landscape. Another important aspect of the 1996 Washington quarter is the role it played in bridging two eras of American coinage. On one hand, it represents the long-standing design tradition of the Washington quarter, series which had dominated the denomination since 1932. On the other hand, it was among the final issues before the advent of the 50-state quarters program, which began in 1999, and dramatically changed collecting habits in the United States. Millions of Americans who had never before cared about coins suddenly became engaged in collecting quarters from each state, sparking a nationwide revival in coin collecting. The 1996 quarter, therefore, is seen as one of the last of the classic quarters. Before this explosion of public interest, historically speaking, 1996 was also a significant year in the United States. The nation was in the midst of the Clinton presidency. The economy was strong and the country was preparing to enter a new millennium. The coins minted during this time, including the Washington quarter of 1996, are tiny time capsules of that era. They circulated through the pockets of Americans who were living through technological change, the growth of the internet, and a sense of optimism about the future. When you hold a 1996 quarter today, you are holding a reminder of that moment in history. Collectors and historians alike pay attention not only to the mintage numbers and mint marks, but also to varieties and errors. Errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or planchet flaws, can dramatically increase the value and intrigue of a 1996 quarter. While most coins struck that year were standard circulation strikes, a few error coins escaped the mint and now command strong premiums among specialists. For collectors, this adds another layer of fascination to the 1996 quarter, since finding one of these rare varieties can be both exciting and rewarding. The Washington Quarter series overall had already cemented itself as one of the longest-running coin series in American history. By 1996, it had survived transitions in minting technology, the removal of silver content in 1965, and the gradual introduction of clad coinage. The coin had moved from being a silver piece of real intrinsic value to a copper nickel-clad piece whose worth was symbolic rather than metallic. Yet its role in American commerce and culture remained strong, and its image of Washington continued to be instantly recognizable. Across the nation, if we consider the artistry and symbolism of the coin, we see deeper meaning in its design. Washington's stern yet composed portrait reflects ideals of leadership, unity, and perseverance, while the eagle on the reverse recalls both strength and peace. The design choices made by Flanagan in 1932 remained relevant decades later, still resonating with Americans who saw these coins every day in their change. The 1996 quarter, therefore, was not just a coin, it was a work of art produced on a massive scale, a democratic art form that passed through the hands of millions. In conclusion, the 1996 Washington Quarter stands as a meaningful artifact within the larger timeline of American coinage. It represents the continuation of a beloved design, the transition toward a new era of collecting, and a reflection of the American experience in the mid-1990s. For collectors, it offers opportunities to appreciate condition, rarity, and proof quality. For historians, it offers a window into the values and priorities of the United States at that time. And for everyday people, it remains a reminder that even the smallest coins in our pockets carry stories that stretch back generations. In a world where every coin tells a story and every piece of metal whispers the forgotten chapters of American history, the 1983 Washington Quarter stands as one of the most intriguing, mysterious, and unexpectedly valuable coins ever created by the United States Mint, a coin born in a year of economic turbulence, minting challenges, metal shortages, and national change, a year that transformed an ordinary quarter into a legendary collectible that still fascinates numismatists, treasure hunters, and history lovers across the nation. And today we dive deep into the journey of this iconic 1983 quarter, exploring its origin, its purpose, its production struggles, its striking anomalies, and the surprising reasons why this single 25-cent piece can command massive attention in the world of rare coins. And as we travel back through the decades, you will see how a simple quarter minted for everyday use became a symbol of American craftsmanship, resilience, and unexpected rarity, and how even today, collectors are willing to pay high premiums for pristine examples full of sharp detail, bold strikes, and unique mint characteristics. A coin that should have been common, yet became scarce, a coin that should have blended into circulation, yet stood out as a shining chapter in American minting history. And our journey begins in the early months of 1983, when the United States Mint was still recovering from the economic pressures of the late 1970s and early 1980s, a time defined by inflation, rising metal prices, and nationwide budget adjustments, leading to strategic changes in coin production. And in that environment, the Washington Quarter continued its long-standing legacy, a design first introduced in 1932, honoring the 200th birthday of President George Washington, and sculpted by John Flanagan, whose portrait of Washington would remain one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The 1983 quarter was meant to be just another continuation of that tradition, yet hidden within the year were unusual circumstances that would elevate the coin far beyond its intended purpose. And one of the main reasons for the unexpected importance of the 1983 quarter was the absence of official mint sets for that year, a result of financial constraints and policy choices that disrupted collectors who relied on these sets to obtain high-grade coins directly from the mint. Without mint sets, the supply of high-quality 1983 coins in the hands of collectors dropped dramatically, forcing collectors to obtain their coins from circulation, where they quickly suffered wear scratches and damage, making mint state 1983 quarters, especially from the Philadelphia mint significantly harder to find than surrounding years, and as the mint battled production pressure shortages in die preparation and heavy demand for circulating coinage, many 1983 quarters were struck with weak details, flat hairlines, soft eagles, and uneven surfaces, creating a year full of challenges that directly influenced the rarity of high-grade survivors, and as the coins entered circulation, they became part of a nation transitioning into new cultural movements, new technology, new economy, and new financial expectations, and the 1983 quarter moved through daily transactions, gas stations, grocery stores, bus fares, lunch counters, each one slowly forming its own marks and story until only a handful would remain untouched enough to qualify as exceptional collector pieces decades later. And among the most famous and sought-after varieties of this year stands the legendary 1983 P quarter with the dramatic die break known by collectors as the spitting eagle error, caused by a die crack extending from the eagle's mouth downward, creating the appearance of a projectile and transforming a simple minting flaw into one of the most famous error coins of the 1980s. And as collectors discovered this variety, excitement surged through the numismatic community, bringing even more attention to the 1983 quarter and elevating its status beyond a simple circulation coin. And as time passed and most examples disappeared into pockets, drawers, vending machines, and coin counters, the remaining high-grade coins began commanding strong prices, especially those certified in MS-65, MS-66, and above, quickly becoming key coins for anyone building a complete modern quarter set. And today, the 1983 quarter stands not just as a piece of money, but as a living artifact of American minting history. A reminder of how economic conditions, production decisions, metal supply challenges, and human craftsmanship can combine to create unexpected rarity and lasting collector value. And as you explore the coin, its history, and its varieties, you begin to understand why this single year remains one of the most studied, discussed, and desired issues in the entire Washington Quarter series. A coin that proves that rarity is not always planned. Value is not always predictable, and history is sometimes hidden in the smallest details of a simple silver-colored coin passed from hand to hand across the nation. And this is the story of the 1983 Washington Quarter, a story that continues to grow as more collectors search for high-grade examples, rare errors, and untouched treasures still waiting to be discovered in the wild, and it remains a powerful reminder that in the world of coins, history is everywhere, even in the pocket change of an ordinary American morning. As the journey of the 1983 Washington Quarter continues, we move deeper into the environment that shaped this unique coin, a time when the United States Mint was navigating not only economic limitations, but also the challenges of aging equipment, evolving minting techniques, and enormous public circulation demands. And while the quarter was already a fundamental part of American commerce, the year 1983 pushed the design to its limits, revealing the strengths and the weaknesses of the minting process in extraordinary ways. And to understand the true importance of this quarter, we must step inside the minting facilities themselves, beginning with Philadelphia, where millions of 1983 P quarters were produced. Yet despite the large numbers, the scarcity of well-struck, high-grade examples continues to astonish collectors because the Philadelphia Mint rushed production schedules and reused dies far beyond their ideal lifespan, resulting in significant wear on the dies, creating coins that show soft details, worn lettering, flat drapery on Washington's portrait, and an eagle with reduced feather clarity. And because these weak strikes circulated heavily, finding one today with full luster sharp hairlines, strong rims, and crisp eagle feathers is a challenge that pushes the value of certified high-grade coins into premium territory. And as we shift our focus to the Denver Mint, we uncover another layer of the story, where the 1983 D quarter faced its own distinct obstacles, including die fatigue, misaligned strikes, and inconsistent metal flow. Yet even with these complications, The Denver issues generally display somewhat stronger details than their Philadelphia counterparts, though still affected by heavy circulation, which makes high mint state survivors equally desirable. And as we explore the work of engravers and mint technicians, we discover that the original design created by John Flanagan in 1932 was never intended to endure such long-term use without periodic refinements, and by the early 1980s, the design had lost some of its original sharpness as decades of die hubs